Ancient and mysterious, powerful and deadly, all-knowing and generous, the gods of Egypt were many things. They originated many thousands of years ago in a land far away from Egypt. Over time they evolved, changed, adapted, and grew in mystery. Their stories are filled with great battles and vengeance, of cycles of nature and the balance of the very universe. Their tales, a real Game of Thrones. From the gods of the underworld such as Osiris and Anubis, to the gods of light such as Amun-Ra and Horus, the lives and actions of the gods of ancient Egypt explain our very existence and our place in the universe. The mysteries of all that is and ever shall be were explored in their lives. Their influence has travelled across continents and across time. Our own so-called religions are full of them under different names. This is the fascinating story of the real gods of Egypt. The ancient Egyptian religions were very complex. Polytheistic beliefs and multiple rituals formed integral parts of their society. The gods were believed to be in control of and present within the very forces which controlled nature itself. The rituals and practices of the ancient Egyptians were created to gain the favour of the various deities of the various forces of nature in order to control the outcome. Most of the formal practices centred around the pharaoh, who was believed to be God on earth and possess his divine power or force. He was the man between them and the gods. And it was his role to sustain the gods with rituals and offerings, so that they could maintain order in the universe. To make sure this worked, huge efforts were made to provide the pharaoh with what he needed, and the thousands of priests did very well out of the deal. Massive constructions across ancient Egypt were testament to the importance placed upon appeasing and gaining the favour of the gods of force. An individual could pray to a particular deity and ask for help, or he could compel them to do his bidding through magic. One is asking, one is telling. there is a direct correlation between the rise of religious institutions in Egypt with the decline in power of the pharaoh. Death was of major importance, with Egyptians going to great lengths to ensure a safe journey through the underworld for their loved ones. Funerary practices were expensive and often complicated. Tombs, grave goods, mummification, offerings and more all made it a rich man's game, but the poor did what they could. Over time the battle of the gods evolved. Some rose high in prominence, others fell. It was all about the battles between the priests of the competing temples. Ra, Amun and Isis were pushed aside when Akhenaten decided that the temple system would be moved to a new location, and the Aten or sun disk would now hold the greatest slot. It did not last, and his new temple city disappeared beneath the sand. It would be some time before a truly monotheistic religion would rise again. The gods of Egypt arise in a collection of myths from ancient Egypt which describe their actions as a method of understanding the world around them. Understanding the gods of Egypt and their myths is crucial to understanding ancient Egypt itself. There is no separation of church and state, of life and religion, because all are intertwined. From farming to pharmacy, from politics to play, all things involve the gods, for the gods are all things. The myths are inspired by the cycles of nature itself. Life is a series of patterns, repeating again and again. This is the present age to them. Before their time, things were linear, and events unfolded to create the patterns. Ma'at is the fundamental order of the universe, and the most important myths are those of creation itself. Here, the gods formed existence from chaos, creating the patterns. The rise of the sun god Ra, the myths of Osiris, Isis and Horus, against this chaotic god, Set. Ra rises in the sky and continues the pattern of existence. He goes down each night into the Underworld, or Duat. The struggle is constant against chaos. Life and death were simply part of this continued pattern, rising like Ra and setting. Mythology inspired and influenced Egyptian culture. Religious rituals and royal leaders, life and death, food, sex, education, art, culture, and more were all part and parcel of the greater living myth of the life of the gods. In a mirror of human dynasties, the gods themselves altered in power. The priests of each deity would use their influence, and there are hundreds of cases of one god usurping a special location and claiming dominance over another. A battle of the gods was truly at work. And so we must begin our journey into the gods themselves. We begin with Amun. Who has been around ever since the Old Kingdom and the earliest days. Known as Amon and Amen, by the 11th dynasty he had become the patron deity of Thebes, the holiest of holy places for the gods. Following a rebellion and the rise of Ahmose I, Amon became nationally important and was fused with the sun god Ra to become Amon-Ra. Across time, Amon-Ra maintained his chief post. The only time this slipped was under the king Akhenaten, who raised Aten to the highest position. Amon-Ra was self-created, champion of the poor and weary. Everybody loved and worshipped him. He was the king of all gods, and almost became monotheistic when other gods were said to be mere manifestations of him. His influence grew so large that nations outside of Egypt began worshipping him, and there are good reasons to suggest that Islamic, Jewish and Christian God is based upon him and his myths. In Greece, Amon-Ra became known as Zeus. Originally, Amun was the god of the wind, until he merged with Ra and also Min, the god of fertility and creation. These newfound powers made him the greatest of the deities. From the Nubian sun god, he adopted the symbol of the ram. He was the god people came to when they wanted mercy for their own wrongdoing, or if they felt wrong done too. He was the God who hears the prayers, who comes at the cry of the poor and distressed. Beware of him, they said. The people were to repeat him to their sons and daughters, to speak his name far and wide. He was big and small. He was all things yet to come, fishes in the deep, birds in heaven. He never spends an entire day angry, and he was merciful. For many years the priests of Amun at Thebes were so powerful that they were effectively the leaders of the nation and held power over the economy. They owned 2/3 of all the temples and 90% of Egypt's ships. The son of one high priest was actually manipulated onto the throne itself, and one high priest himself actually became pharaoh and ruler of the 21st dynasty. By the 10th century BC, this dominance began to decline, but his worship maintained. His influence upon the wider world is actually massive. He is even mentioned in the Bible. In Greece he became Zeus Ammon. After the Battle of Issus, Alexander the Great was declared the son of Ammon and considered himself divine. The words ammonia and ammonite are derived from Ammon because certain properties were said to be from Ammon. We turn now to one of the most mysterious of Egyptian deities seen in copious movies and works of fiction, Anubis. In truth, the word Anubis is the Greek name of an Egyptian deity associated with mummification and the afterlife. He was depicted as a canine, or a man with a canine head, and was known at the time as the golden jackal or the African golden wolf. Just like other Egyptian deities, Anubis had many roles. He was the protector of graves, embalmer, and was later replaced by Osiris as the lord of the Underworld. He ushered souls into the afterlife and attended the weighing of their souls. This act would decide whether the dead would be allowed to enter the realm of the dead. His colour is black, which symbolised rebirth from the colour of fertile silt of the Nile, and also the colour of a corpse which turns after embalming. In the Old Kingdom, Anubis was the most important god of the dead. He was replaced in that role by Osiris during the Middle Kingdom. It is because of this association with the mysteries of death and the afterlife that Anubis has crept strongly into popular culture today in a scary way. In fact, he was not at all scary and helped people who had suffered the loss of life to go to a better place. Our next deity is the goddess of warfare in Lower Egypt. In Greece, she is known as Eleuros. In Egypt, she was known as Bastet, and her worship began in the 2nd dynasty. In Upper Egypt, they worship Sekhmet, the lioness goddess, in the same role, and normally at the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, deities were merged, but in this case, Sekhmet and Bastet maintained their own identities. During the 22nd dynasty, Bastet transformed from lioness warrior deity into a protector deity represented as a cat. During later dynasties, the deity remained, but was assigned a lesser role in the pantheon by bearing the name Bastet instead of the earlier Bast. This happened after Thebes became the capital of ancient Egypt during the 18th dynasty. As they rose to great power, the priests of the temple of Amun shifted the other deities down the league as their own Amun-Ra rose. Bastet was originally a lioness warrior goddess of the sun throughout most of ancient Egyptian history. But later she was changed into the cat goddess, which is familiar today. Greeks, occupying ancient Egypt towards the end of its civilization, changed her into a goddess of the moon. In Lower Egypt, she was defender of the pharaoh and the later deity Ra. Her name was associated with the jars in which Egyptians stored their ointment used as perfume. Bastet thus gradually became regarded as the goddess of perfumes. Because of this, she was regarded as the wife of Anubis, the god of embalming. Our next deity was the most important of all the sacred animals in ancient Egypt. He was worshipped in Memphis and served as a go-between for humans and Ptah, Osiris and Atum. He is the bull god Apis. His worship is there right at the start of Egyptian history, connected with fertility. Archaeology reveals burials of bulls, indicating that the bull was divine long before, and possibly represented the king himself. His worship continued after the Egyptians with the Greeks and even the Romans, and lasted until the 5th century AD. The bull was chosen because of its strength and virility. It was the manifestation of the pharaoh. Apis was one of the Egyptian gods for which Alexander the Great performed a sacrifice during his seizure of the country from the Persians. We turn now to one of the very earliest of Egyptian deities, Khnum, the god of the source of the Nile. This was an important position, for all life along the river relied upon the annual flooding to bring fertility to the land. He was the god who created human children at his potter's wheel and placed them within the mother's womb. He was the divine potter. In fact, he was the third aspect of Ra, the god of rebirth, creation, and the evening sun. Now one of the most significant deities in Egyptian mythology, the god Horus. There are many depictions of Horus, and Egyptologists treat them all as separate deities, although it is possible they were all just different manifestations of the same deity. He is mostly depicted as a falcon or falcon-headed man. Commonly, Horus is the son of Isis and Osiris, and is a rival to Set, although in the earliest form he was their brother. However, there is another tradition that Hathor was his mother and wife. He was the god of the sky, war, and hunting. Horus means falcon, but also the distant one, and the one who is above. In life, the pharaoh was Horus. In death, he became Osiris, two aspects of the same soul. a new Horus appeared as a new pharaoh appeared. As the representation or embodiment of Horus, Pharaoh was divine, a god on earth, and because Horus was produced by Atum, the greatest, he was part of Atum, and so therefore was the Pharaoh. Eventually this simply evolved into Pharaoh becoming the son of Ra. The myth of Horus is very interesting and parallels the Christian myth. He was born to the virgin goddess Isis, after she collected the dismembered parts of her murdered husband Osiris. Only his penis was missing, which had been thrown into the Nile. The myths vary, but she eventually managed to get herself pregnant by magic. She fled to escape her jealous brother, Set, and gave birth to Horus. Horus, as the sky, had two eyes. His right eye was the sun, and his left the moon. As a falcon, he flew across the sky. The moon was not as bright as the sun, because he had battled with Set, who gouged out his left eye, and a new one created to replace it. The Eye of Horus is an ancient Egyptian symbol of protection and royal power from deities, in this case from Horus or Ra. The word for the symbol was Wadjet. It was the eye of the one of the earliest of Egyptian deities, Wadjet, who later became associated with Bast, Mut and Hathor as well. Wadjet was a solar deity, and this symbol began as her eye, an all-seeing eye. It was adopted by Horus and Ra. Horus was a god of war and hunting. Thus, he became a symbol of majesty and power, as well as the model of the pharaohs. The pharaohs were said to be Horus in human form. Horus was given the role of protecting humans from his brother, Set, by his mother, Isis. Set was the god of the desert who had killed his father, Osiris. Over time, Horus battled many times with Set to avenge his father and to choose the next pharaoh. The mother of Horus is the great Isis. She was so widely worshipped that her influence spread to Greece and Rome, and indeed, she is associated with Mary, the mother of Jesus. She is seen as the ideal mother and wife. She is the patron of nature and magic, a friend of slaves, sinners, artists, and yet she also hears the prayers of the rich, maidens and rulers. She is the protector of the dead and goddess of children. Her name means throne, and her headdress is often depicted as a throne. She represented the Pharaoh's power on earth, and he was her child. He was Horus on earth, God on earth, like Jesus. Her parents were Geb, the god of the earth, and Nut, the goddess of the sky. She married her brother, Osiris. The Nile flooded each year from the tears of sorrow issued forth from Isis. She first appears in the 5th dynasty on a sun temple, although it is believed she was originally a separate deity from pre-dynastic Egypt. She's often depicted as the wife or assistant of a deceased pharaoh, and the mother of the 4 sons of Horus. These 4 sons protected the canopic jars that contained the organs of the deceased pharaoh. Her worship was carried out in a temple known as Isium, with daily offerings from priests and priestesses. These generally had a reputation of being wise, with great healing powers. They could also interpret dreams and control the weather. Isis was associated with the star Sirius, and its appearance was a sign of the new year. She was therefore associated with rebirth and reincarnation. One myth reveals a slightly darker side. Here, she tricks Ra into revealing his secret name by getting a snake to bite him. Only she has the antidote, and because she had his real name, she had power over him. Having a secret name was important for magic spells. Because of this, she became highly important to magicians, and magic is central to the myth of Isis. After the conquest of Egypt, Isis became known as the Queen of Heaven, and she merged with other mother goddesses such as Demeter, Astarte, and Aphrodite. Isis spread throughout the Roman Empire, and is one reason that the Christian Isis, known as Mary, was accepted so easily. The Greek antiquarian Plutarch describes Isis as a goddess exceptionally wise and a lover of wisdom, to whom, as her name at least seems to indicate, knowledge and understanding are in the highest degree appropriate. Of course, her husband suffered a pretty bad fate. Osiris was usually depicted as the god of the Underworld. He was also the god of transition, resurrection, and regeneration. He is given green skin, a pharaoh's beard, mummy-wrapped legs, a crown of 2 large ostrich feathers, a crook, and a flail. He was once believed to be the eldest son of the earth god Geb, or the sun god Ra, and the earth goddess Nut. He was the brother and husband of Isis. And his son was Horus. Because he ruled over the dead, and because the dead were considered to be the ones truly living, he was called the King of the Living. He was the judge of the dead in the afterlife, and from his place in the underworld he granted life to all those things such as vegetation rising upwards. He was the Lord of Love, permanently youthful, Lord of Silence, and when a pharaoh died, he became Osiris, who rose from the dead himself. In this way they inherited eternal life. This was later mirrored in the Christian myths. Eternal life through the slain God who rose from the dead, who was the son of Mary or Isis. The 3 aspects of Isis are clearly laid out in the Bible as the 3 Marys, and this is why she is the mother and lover of Jesus. His name probably means powerful one or God Almighty, although nobody is certain. His crook signifies his role as the shepherd god. The flail is unknown, but may be a shepherd's whip, pull and push. His green colour symbolises rebirth. The soul, or Ba, of Osiris was sometimes worshipped as a separate deity, and was known as the soul of the Lord of the Pillar of Continuity. This was the backbone of Osiris, and the Nile itself, the backbone of Egypt. It therefore supplied the water, fertile silt, and vegetation for survival. He died only to be resurrected again each year. This Ba of Osiris was power, and also part of the word for ram, and so he is depicted as a ram-headed god. The living, sacred ram was in fact worshipped and mummified as holy. With the fall of Egypt to the Greeks, Osiris was merged with the Apis bull and became Serapis, and depicted as a standard Greek god. His cult continued on the island of Philae in Upper Egypt until the 6th century AD, until the Romans destroyed the sanctuaries, arrested the priests, and seized the divine images. And now for the deity who slew Osiris, Set. He is the god of the desert, storms, disaster, violence, chaos, and foreigners. Ra employs Set on his solar boat to repel the serpent of chaos, Apep. He was a balance to Horus as the lord of the Red Desert, whereas Horus was the lord of the Black Land, or fertile soil. The opposites of barren and fertility. He killed and mutilated his brother Osiris. Isis put him back together and had Horus as a child. Horus and Set did battle many times. Set is the father of Anubis, and the meaning of his name is unknown. It is likely that it gave rise to Satan in later Christian myth. He is often depicted as a strange and unknown beast. In human form, he has a distinctive head, and sometimes with the head of a donkey. In the mythology of Heliopolis, like Osiris and Isis, Set was born of the sky goddess Nut and the earth god Geb. Myths show Osiris was as wise and happy, Set as the jealous brother. His cult continued for some time and influenced Christian and other religions. We turn now to the wise god, Thoth. He is depicted with the head of an ibis bird, or a baboon. He maintained the universe and stood beside the boat of Ra. He would later arbitrate between the disputes of the gods. He is associated with art, writing, magic, science, and the judgment of the dead. His name simply means he who is like the ibis. In Greece, Thoth was seen as their own god Hermes, and later his title became the thrice great Hermes, or Hermes Trismegistus. For hundreds of years he was the wisest and greatest of gods for magicians and alchemists. As the ibis-headed human form, he represents the reckoner of time and season. He did, however, have a great many roles in Egyptian society. He was the mediator between the powers of good and evil, and ensured balance. He was the scribe of the gods and is credited with inventing writing and alphabets. He reported on the weighing of the scales in the Underworld. He was self-created and master of physical and moral law. He calculated the mathematics for the structure of the motions of the heavens. The Egyptians believed that without his words, the gods themselves could not have existed. Indeed, in the Underworld, his power was equal to that of Ra and Osiris. He was the author of all science, religion, philosophy, and magic. And the Greeks said he invented astronomy, astrology, mathematics, geometry, medicine, theology, government, and much more. In fact, to them, he was the author of all works of knowledge. Originally, Thoth was a moon god, providing light in the darkness and standing beside Ra, the sun god. The myths of Egypt serve to explain and justify the observable world and its many cycles, patterns and mysteries. The nature of order and chaos. The cycles of life and death, of fertility, seasons, light in the sky, life underwater, the fate of the universe itself. All of this and more was explained through the lives, actions and statements of the gods. From the earth to the sun, from knowledge to imagination, the actions of the gods governed them all. All forces had divine inspiration behind them. They did not believe their gods had animal heads. They simply used symbolism to explain aspects of the power and nature of the gods. As their own writing system of hieroglyphics was symbolic and held multiple meanings, so did their concepts of the gods. They did not think the sky was a cow called Hathor, supported by other gods. This simply explained the power of that goddess and merged several ideas about existence together. Even though there were temples and statues depicting the gods, the real realm of the gods cannot be known or imagined. It is not accessible to humans. The myths create stories to explain in human terms what it all means. It was in fact a very clever device, and one used by later religions such as Christianity. The myths are in fact never fully developed. We have to fill in many missing blanks. There was a reason behind this, a philosophical statement, saying that we simply cannot know as humans. They only had general outlines and fragments, and the gods themselves would not pass the script test for a Hollywood movie because their characters are never fully developed. The truth is that the meaning is the most important part of the myth, not the detail. As long as the meaning remained, what did it matter that a mere detail was altered? Many of the myths came from earlier times and other cultures. They were adapted for their own environment and people. The same thing would happen to the Egyptian gods, as Greece and Rome, and then Christianity, stole the ideas and changed them.
I totally believe that the gods of ancient times could actually have been aliens. I don't know if you remember the big Mayan 2012 calendar scare. Everybody thought the world was going to end, and it was significant because it was actually a really good friend of mine's birthday. So we actually threw a party, being stupid and kind of making fun of the situation. But what happened out of that is it got me into researching both the Mayans, Mesoamerica, and particularly the Aztec people really came to interest me because they had so many gods and so many deities, things that were part of their everyday culture. They had god of wine, god of fertility, god of birth, god of war, god of maize. In fact, if I remember correctly, they actually had 4 different gods for corn. One for red corn, one for yellow corn, one for white corn, one for black corn. So they have these deities that they assign to significant portions of their life. But if you look into the Aztec culture a little bit more, what's crazy about that fact is they actually had 400 celestial sky. They had 400 sky gods. 400. During the day, they had 400. And then they had 400 at night. Mimiczanekoa, if I remember the name correctly. These 400 sky gods, just during the daylight hours, and then another 400 at night. They assigned significant values in their culture to deities, to these forces that they didn't understand. And the important things every day, think about that, how essential corn was to their culture and just living day in and day out and surviving. And somehow they also assigned gods to not only that, but also to sky deities. Now think about that for a little bit. It makes you wonder, it makes you, if they assign value as a culture to those two things significantly, both corn, fertility, birth, war, the highlights of life, it would be crazy to think that they would just arbitrarily assign 400 to sky gods. I totally believe that they knew something that we might not know or may have forgotten. Aztecs, Mayans, Mesoamerican cultures, this is repeated time after time after time in their storytelling. Just look at their artwork. It seems like they're trying to describe something in their own style that they can't quite understand. I look at these pictures, I look at this artwork that clearly people labored over, put time into, and some of it appears to be feathered serpents, which of course we look upon and kind of don't have a modern day equivalent, I guess you could say. But some of it you look at and it's not fangs or teeth, it's what appears to me tubes, what appears to me technology, what appears to me something that is foreign to their culture. You look at the art of something that is theirs, something they understand, and it's very well defined. You can identify purses and people carrying things, but then you see these headdresses or people wearing masks in their artwork, and it looks like a child kind of describing something that they don't understand completely, but it kind of looks like this. I can completely see that. I think the Aztec, Mesoamerican, the Mayan cultures knew something but didn't know how to put it down.
For millennia, Ancient man hunted and gathered like many animals on our planet. But something happened, something amazing. Suddenly, after thousands of generations, mankind settled down and civilization emerged. Soon humanity was ordering his own society. Creating rules and regulations, laws emerged as if from nowhere. Complex tools, art, literature, agriculture, transport, and more emerged as if by magic. We looked to the stars, the very heavens above us, for navigation, inspiration, and to inform us of the time of day and even year. We built huge monuments to the gods we saw above us, to the same gods we claimed had come down to us from heaven and given us knowledge and life. A new phase in so-called evolution had begun. A new humanity had emerged. The gods were aliens. The change in humanity was genetic. The knowledge was given to the chosen few by the ancient watchers over mankind. This is their story. We have two choices. Mankind evolved over a vast period and then suddenly changed overnight from wandering bands to complex, civilized societies. Or ancient man was chosen by a visiting alien race to be genetically modified and then given immense knowledge. It may sound crazy, but both ideas may be equally so. These ancient astronauts gave humanity knowledge, religion, and culture. It was a mirror of their own mother culture. They aided in the building of huge and complex structures across the globe, from the pyramids of ancient Egypt to the stone heads of Easter Island. They aided us to worship them. Over time, our memory of these alien visitors has become our religions. The giants of the Bible are everywhere. Many say this idea is madness, that history is known to us, that we know the course of human advancement, but these claims are wrong. There are in fact a great many gaps in the documented historical and archaeological records. These gaps can only be filled with an external explanation. There is in fact a huge amount of historical and archaeological evidence to prove that our history was created by the ancient astronauts. Artifacts that we have discovered from ancient times that simply do not fit in with the period. Artifacts beyond the capabilities of early man. Artifacts that reveal the likeness of our alien ancestors, angels, fairies, giants, and other beings from tales of times past. Are folk memories of our ancestral deities. An archaeological example of these folk memories are the Dogu figurines from Japan, dating back to as far as 1000 BC. There are no reasons known to have these strange humanoid depictions unless they are artistic interpretations of the ancient gods that descended from the skies. Many say that this is a new way of looking at old stories, and that is partly true. But the idea of ancient alien gods is not from the 21st century, nor is it solely from the 20th century. It dates back to the late 19th century and yet was ignored. It only started to become serious in the mid-20th century when Harold T. Wilkins proposed it seriously. In fact, it wasn't until the 1970s that scientists decided the idea needed to be clearly shot down. They did an excellent job, and by the 1980s, the very idea of ancient aliens had become a joke. And yet, in the 1960s, scientists suggested that we should take the idea of alien visitation seriously, even if as a working hypothesis. Carl Sagan stated that repeated visitations by alien cultures to planet Earth was plausible, and that ancient historical narratives or fables were able to offer reliable descriptions of contact. As an example of this idea is the story of a French explorer in the late 18th century who visited the northwest coast of America and made first contact with the Tlingit people. These people then built an oral tradition about this first contact, which became legend and would be almost unrecognizable to us. The point here is that a brief contact with an alien culture is recorded by humanity, even if in oral tradition. When such contact is written down or recorded in artifacts, then the evidence becomes even stronger. The beauty of this is that there are copious amounts of such evidence from around the world, as we shall see. Take the Assyrian or Babylonian fish deity, Oannes or Dagon. Here is a prime example of an alien god from ancient times. It is a being with humanoid features, but also part fish or with scales. Oannes came to the people of Sumeria and gave them vast knowledge: agriculture, mathematics, art, healing, and more. Eventually, this tale would be remembered in the Bible of the Christians as Jonah, who was swallowed by the whale, a large fish. In the Bible, Jonah is special to the heavenly God. He is a prophet or speaker on his behalf. He is sent on a mission to pass on God's knowledge to the people. It is only by being launched from the mouth of a giant fish and landing safely on shore that Jonah could get the stupid people to listen to him. Apparently, it's perfectly okay to believe that all of this is true, and yet ridiculous to believe that this is a folk memory of a very real, special, intellectual being trying to get humans to learn. The image of Jonah emerging from the mouth of the giant fish is in fact no different to the images of Oannes or half-man, half-fish being. It is an alien creature sent by the alien gods to impart knowledge. A great many ancient deities are part human and part beast. Historians simply believe that these are ideas of power or knowledge, anthropomorphic depictions of spirits of nature. But what if they were true depictions of humanoids that didn't quite look right to our ancestors? This indeed would explain why cultures across the globe depicted their gods in this manner. There are numerous artifacts to prove this point. There are also numerous works of art from history showing alien craft in the skies above us and even interacting with us, creating the religions we have today. We do not have to believe that our ancient monuments and artifacts were made by ancient aliens. We simply need to see that they were influenced by them, that they are mankind's ideas of the things they saw and experienced, depictions of alien creatures with seemingly omnipotent knowledge and power. If I were to step back in time 2,000 or 3,000 years, I too would appear strange and yet all-powerful to our ancestors. My knowledge could alter the course of human history. How much more powerful would be an ancient alien visiting Earth many more thousands of years before, to early man as he hunted and gathered in the woods and seas? Great monuments around the world still to this day hold secrets within them that man in the 21st century has yet to unlock. How can it be that the builders of Stonehenge 4,000 or 5,000 years ago knew so much more than we do? How it could be that the great pyramids of Egypt are still holding on to their secrets? It is simple. The knowledge has been lost, or it left in craft and flew back to heaven. Gods of ancient times were very much like humans and yet different. Zeus, the high god of ancient Greece, could change shape, and he was not the only one. Our religions are a direct result of ancient mankind's contact with alien visitors. Gods that could change the weather, bring fire and lightning out of the sky, make the oceans bubble, wipe out whole nations, fly across the sky in war chariots, rise from the dead, change shape, raise the dead, walk on water, command armies of flying, glorious angels, and so much more. Where these ancient beings came from, we simply do not know, but they came. We can say with relative certainty that they came at least 5,000 years before Christ, and probably in Sumeria, Turkey, and Africa, for it is here that civilization emerged. There is one all-encompassing being that rules them all and which has entered into every religion, fable, and myth across the globe. It has been misunderstood as a reptile by some, but the truth is that our ancestors saw this wise, all-knowing, and healing deity as a serpent. In order to understand the sheer amount of evidence there is for this ancient alien race of serpent gods, we have to look at the evidence piece by piece. In the beginning, we pointed out that mankind may very well have been genetically modified so as to be reborn. This, then, must lead us to the origin story of mankind, and a great many of them all speak of the same thing: a serpent-related origin. Let us look at the most famous of these, Adam and Eve. Remarkably, we find that both are in fact related to ancient serpent worship from their Sumerian origins, a religion that is in fact worldwide. The word Havaya is the root of Eve and means female serpent. It is connected to the same Arabic root which means both life and serpent. So Eve is the origin of life, and she is a female serpent. But where did she come from? The Persians call the constellations serpents, the little Avas or Eve. This is a folk memory of the origins of the mother of mankind. Little Eve, the female serpent, came from the heavens. But what about Adam? In Old Akkadian, Ad means father, and Adam was closely associated in legend with Seth, Saturn, Thoth, and Teatus, who were all serpent deities. So Adam is the father serpent of mankind. So the children of Adam and Eve must therefore also be serpents? In fact, Abel actually means serpent shining, and Cain was called the son of serpents. So Adam and Eve, the progenitors of the human race, were serpents from heaven and gave birth to shining serpents. Why would this be if not to explain the origin of our species to those with the eyes to see? Maybe they've not been looking in the right place. Maybe they should look in the Bible, the book of Genesis, chapter 6, verses 1 and 2 and 4 states, "When human beings began to increase in number on the earth, and daughters were born to them, the Son of God saw that the daughters of humans were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God went to the daughters of humans and had children by them. This is extremely clear. A group called the Nephilim, or sons of God, were on earth, and they saw the women and mated with them. What is all this about if not a written account of shining beings coming down to earth and mating? The King James Version translates Nephilim as giants. Amazingly, the very idea of there being giants upon the land is not only to be found in the older texts of the Bible, they are in fact to be found across the world. This is clear evidence that these starmen were of larger stature. Across Europe, great monuments such as Stonehenge were said by oral tradition to have been built by these giants. This makes complete sense because these monuments are from the exact period we are discussing and were observatories of the heavens. Great technological feats by ancient man indeed. These advances were made by the great shining ones, the serpent alien beings that gave rise to ancient Sumeria. Appearing out of nowhere and at least as early as the 5th millennium BC, the earliest known civilization, the Sumerians of Sumer in Mesopotamia, was initially a non-Semitic culture. By 3000 BC, and as a result of its sophisticated irrigated agriculture, Sumer flourished as a nation and developed a considerable power base through the development of its numerous city-states like Erech, Eridu, Lagash, and Kish. The Sumerians invented cuneiform writing and were way ahead of their time, having advanced knowledge in music, poetry, art, mathematics, astronomy, and science. For the ancient Sumerian music was a tool that helped them describe the cosmos. In Sumerian creation myth, the angels, known as the Anunnaki, or great sons of Anu, were the founders of their culture. The names angel, Anunnaki, and Anakim have much in common. They are indicative of the ancient alien ancestors who brought the secrets to the rest of the world. Interestingly, Anunnaki is phonetically similar to the Hebrew Anakim, the giant race, and also Ngakak, the shaman from Greenland to Alaska. These ancient alien beings are in the Bible as angels and gods, or Elohim, because the Hebrews utilized the Sumerian myths when writing their own. The book of Enoch in the Bible tells us that the sons of God were in fact called watchers and numbered around 200, an elite group of beings that watched over mankind. They are said to have descended to earth and bred with humans. They had offspring, and these were called Nephilim, or giants. Mankind was given great knowledge by these watchers and Nephilim, but eventually the Nephilim and mankind turned against each other and God stepped in. The humans, who had gained the greatest knowledge, the watchers and the Nephilim, were destroyed in the Great Flood. This knowledge imparted upon mankind was metallurgy, cosmetics, sorcery, astrology, astronomy, and meteorology. It appears that the gods were worried that mankind had become too powerful, a threat to themselves, and so, with their great power, they caused a flood, leaving behind only the remnant of mankind. In the Bible, the Watchers are described as fallen angels. Is this one of the first ever science fiction books? Or is this a bastardized version of the history retold by the new Hebrew religion in their own book? Is this really an historical account of ancient aliens visiting the Earth to observe them? Did they ignore their own orders and breed with humans? Is this the point of genetic manipulation written down as the word breeding by a non-scientific mind? If this is true, then you and I have alien blood running through our veins. In the Old Testament, chapter 1 of the book Ezekiel recounts a vision in which Ezekiel sees an immense cloud that contains fire and emits lightning and brilliant light. It continues, the center of the fire looked like a glowing metal, and in the fire was what looked like 4 living creatures. These creatures are described as winged and humanoid. They sped back and forth like flashes of lightning, and fire moved back and forth among the creatures. The passage goes on to describe 4 shiny objects, each appearing like a wheel intersecting a wheel. These objects could fly, and they moved with the creatures. When the living creatures moved, the wheels beside them moved, and when the living creatures rose from the ground, the wheels also rose. What on earth had Ezekiel witnessed? Probably nothing on earth at all. This is obviously an ancient man's depiction of a UFO lighting up the sky. In fact, the Bible is full to brim of alien history. There are powerful holy weapons that are capable of wiping out mankind, such as the Ark of the Covenant. There are angels flying down to earth, ladders to the heavens, a Messiah rising into the sky back to the heavens, floating beings walking on water, shape-shifting, and so much more. All of this needs to be reappraised with a new outlook, an outlook of ancient alien visitation upon planet Earth. The history of mankind shall remain incomplete until we do. But there are a great many artifacts, tales, and histories outside of the Bible and from across the world which all point to a period over 7,000 years ago when we were visited by aliens from another place. There are tales of serpent deities and giants everywhere in all cultures. From oral traditions to written record, from sacred monuments to artifacts, the evidence is there by the truckload. Through fear of ridicule, historians and scientists ignore the facts right before them. Let us return to the Watchers once more, for herein lies the truth. When Cain and his wife bore Enoch and built a city called Enoch, we have the people of Cain, or the son of serpents, being consecrated before God. Enoch was the son of Cain, who was the son of Adam and Eve. He was therefore himself one of the Nephilim, the sons of aliens. So many of the myths of the snake culture crossed over during the vast period that encompassed the many rising civilizations, and so many of the myths emerged within the fables, folktales, and religions of Greece, Rome, and Egypt. They took on the ideas of the earlier beliefs and fostered them, adding their own unique element. The Western mythologies then took these classical structures and built upon them further. But we can see the prevalence of the serpent culture even within the names of the various places and deities from antiquity. Eusebius is credited with announcing to the world that even the Zoroastrians called their expansive heaven after the serpent. This is true of many cultures. The heavens was described as the place of serpents. The same serpents that originated mankind and gave him knowledge, just like the snake in the Garden of Eden. In Chaldea, the most ancient of places, the city of Opus on the Tigris is named after the serpent, and it is said that the people there were addicted to the divination and worship of the serpent. The serpent worship passed on swiftly into Egypt, where the deity was known initially as Kanaf, Kanef, and Senef. Later it became Ab or Ob, the royal serpent or basilisk. One of the chief deities was Vulcan, who Cicero styled as Opus, another serpent term. This was the same god as most Osir, Osiris, the sun god. Osiris was often known also as Abel or Pythos Sol, with great pillars of stone dedicated to his worship. These pillars became known later in Greek times as obelos or obeliscus, now seen as the obelisk and related to basilisk. They reached towards the heavens, back home where they came from, as if pointing a finger. Think about that for a moment. One of the most iconic monuments in the world is the obelisk, named after the serpent deities that gave mankind the knowledge to build them, and it points home. With this knowledge, a new investigation should be undertaken to work out precisely where these ancient monuments pointed in the heavens. Are these really clues left behind our ancient alien gods for us to discover when the time is right? Even modern places' names show a link with the most ancient serpent worship. Opus, Ophis, Opionia, Ophiusa, Obatha, Obana, Opichi, and many more were originators of these modern names. Ethiopia, for instance, comes from Thoth and Athoth, or a mistaken translation of Aethophion, a sacred title for the followers of the serpent deity. Thus, it could be that Ethiopia or Aethiopia came directly from the term Aethope and Aethopus, worshippers of the snake. Even the original names for roads shows the remarkable divergence of the snake cults. A people called Kuthites or Haliadae settled on this beautiful island, and they were also known as Hivites or Ophites, followers of the snake. The island was named Ophiusa. There is the oral tradition which emerges that Rhodes was once swarming with snakes. It was in fact swarming with snake followers. The modern term for Rhodes could also be from the Syriac term for serpent, Rad. The same myths are true of many places. Even Cyprus was once called Ophiusis or Opiotis, from the proliferation of serpents said to have been found here. From the mysteries of Osiris, Iris, and Horus to Attis and Cybele, from Circes and Proserpine to Bonadea and Priapus, we see a remarkable association of the serpent deity in the creation of mankind. There was a great secret spread with these myths by the people of the serpent, a secret which spread across continents, then embedded into local culture, changing slowly with time into modern myths and religions. And yet, all along, they really held the truth about the origin of mankind and our knowledge and rise to great civilizations. Before even Sumerian legends, there are copious vases with gigantic snakes winding over the entire universe, sun, moon, and stars, as if the serpents commanded the heavens. The snake is found growing out of plants, chalices, and wells. It is the giver of life. The next and most widespread ancient symbol of the snake is the spiral. This is found everywhere, especially on stone monuments. The spiral is believed to be the symbol of the mother goddess, and as we shall see, this relates back to the snake, just as the mother of mankind, Eve, does. If we look at the Indian Sheshnaga, or serpent god, we find that there are some researchers that have claimed him to be possibly the initiator of the Christian halo effect. There is little wonder here, for these tales not only crossed boundaries, cultures, and beliefs, they crossed continents in ships. There was widespread belief in the power of the serpent, and the spiral images link directly with the snake gods, thus virtually proving that the spiral is a snake symbol. It also shows that with their eye on good propaganda, they saw in the snake a wonderfully powerful association for their leader. This is not just a common modern practice like getting a celebrity to endorse a product. It was a marketing tool many years ago as well. This universal symbol of the spiral is said to be the initiator of the maze or labyrinth, which is also thought to be symbolic of the snake's path. To follow the path of the coiling snake is to follow symbolically the way to immortal life. Serpents were said to be immortal, and in all likelihood, this is because the ancient serpent alien race appeared to live forever compared to our short lifespan. We probably do have the oldest serpent symbols in the Sumerian legends. Their word for dragon or winged serpent was Yusham, and their origin can be traced back to 5000 BC in the story of Zu. However, the Chinese also have a claim that dragons can be traced back to 5000 BC, which would not be surprising if the ancient aliens had visited Earth at that time. Is this our evidence of just when they arrived? But there are older legends, and as we shall see, these legends emerged largely from Africa, probably fermenting in the growing power struggles which ensued with a growing number of people and the emerging altered civilizations being fostered by the ancient aliens. In Central Africa, the peculiar and famous Dogon people have a divine serpent called Lebe, who is the first member of the living dead. It is a serpent who has the first power to overcome actual death. He is not a man, for no man can overcome death. He is a serpent god, which has come to them from above. These Dogons still believe in Lebe, but their belief goes back to the origins of their tribe. An oral tradition, which is sometimes stronger and more believable than written texts, especially when we consider that many ancient texts have been altered and manipulated by those in power. The Christian Church has been guilty of this act for hundreds of years, indoctrinating the illiterate into their new propaganda and taking the originator's name in vain for the purpose of power. In Dahomey, the Fawn people have a great serpent who is seen as a rainbow named Dan. This serpent encircles the world as the Ouroboros. Basically, there are many serpent gods in Africa with many attributes, but mainly attributes of creation, forming the universe, the stars, heavens, and the mountains, and bringing mankind as we know it into existence. Simply replace these beliefs of gods with aliens, and we are getting somewhere. In the fantastic array of Egyptian legend, there are those gods which have always stood the test of popularity. One of these is Osiris, who, it was said, entered the tail of the great serpent, was drawn through its body, and came out the mouth, born anew. The tail is the beginning, and the head being the new life. This is a graphical tale of the spiral or maze element we found in early archaeology. Following the spiral or walking the maze is seen as the virtual walking into immortality. By the power of the snake and the Osiris myth is proof that resurrection is possible, but only through the power of the serpent. Did the aliens then have the power to bring man back from the dead like the fictional tales in Stargate? Another great and powerful name in the Egyptian pantheon has to be Isis. Sacred snakes were said to have lived in the temples of Isis and gave oracles. Just replace sacred snake with aliens, and we have powerful beings able to offer up wise counsel and predict the future. It was believed that horrendous disasters would befall Egypt if the snakes ever decided to leave. The great powerful queen goddess Isis was given power over the poison of the serpent and the scorpion. In one text, Isis lays her hands on a poisoned child and casts out the poison. Egypt's mother of creation, Per-Uatchit, was also a serpent. The hieroglyphic snake stood for goddess and eventually Uraeus, later to become one of the secret names for God in medieval alchemy, a subtle allusion to God being both male and yet female. This Egyptian Uraeus, or Asp, was a guardian god of the Delta region. It is the name for the snake, which is seen on the foreheads of pharaohs. It is the Egyptian cobra, and was said to be the snake Cleopatra chose to use when committing suicide. It would be the bite of the asp which would lead her into eternal life. This is how it was seen, not as terrible and wasteful suicide as we would see it today, but a stealing of her soul from those who would oppress her and deliver her up to life immortal in the other world. Take all of this now and turn it towards the ancient aliens. We have the power of the serpent giving the queen the ability to travel to the other world, a world where the gods lived. This is the immortality that the serpent can bring. This journey of discovery becomes ever more exciting when we see things like this clearly, and old stories are not only brought back to life, but are given a new dimension. Suddenly, fanciful ideas become the foundation of a whole new history of the world. That story people have retold for generations are in fact vessels of hidden knowledge, and that we are the ones who can now see the truth revealed for the first time. There are many more forms of serpent deity within the pantheon of Egyptian lords, with many attributes, and we really do not need to go through them all. But there is one Egyptian god which moved away from his origin and is now found in our Western Christian world as Satan. And remember, Satan is mixed with Lucifer, the light bearer that fell to earth. One of the attributes of the Egyptian Set was the serpent, and as Set-Hen, he became Satan when the Hebrews immigrated. No wonder then that the image of Satan is and has been seen as the snake. Now think about an alien creature when you hear the attributes of this remarkable being. Set, an important god, was able to glide over the ground silently, observing human life. He embodied immortality. He was the son of the earth being, reborn each day from the womb of the Great Mother. He was the consort of the goddess Setet, which is said again and again to have eventually evolved into the very biblical tempter of Eve. Set later appeared in Russian folklore as Koshki, the Deathless, moving on to become the dragon that must be slain to receive immortal life. All of this is pure alien science fiction. Ra, probably the most famous of all Egyptian gods, was the sun god, and as the serpent, he is associated in male form as the sun. Ra tamed the serpent, and according to the Egyptian magical texts, he put the serpent in chains. A special liquid was produced by Ra, which would enable eternal youth. It was held in a sacred vase and said to be the most secret liquid. The great and powerful Ra, the sun and snake god, tamed the serpent and produced a magical liquid which not only bestows immortality, but is kept in a sacred vase. Does this reveal that the very tales of the Holy Grail itself could be in fact linked to some amazing science brought to us by ancient aliens? But what of Greece? The Greeks had many terms for snakes, such as aspens, drakon, egnida, herpeton, and ophis. Kraken is also a powerful Greek serpent, this time of the sea. Kr is Sanskrit for creator, and this kind of etymology must show the powerful links between the various cultures of the ancient world and the fact that all cultures saw the ancient alien serpent breed to have been creators of mankind. A Kraken means great fire or light or great one. Egyptian mythology states Aker keepeth ward over the wicked. The great light watched over the ordinary people, the humans. The same root word gives us Cerberus, the three-headed serpent dog which guards Hades or the otherworld. Ichthus, the secret name of Jesus, is claimed by most entomologists to be the same as Iacchus or Bacchus, and as Longfellow Beatty points out in The Garden of the Golden Flower, Bacchus bore the same mystery name as Jesus, Ichthus, the fish. Bacchus was the son of Zeus and is the same as Dionysus, who was born as a serpent and represented as a bearded man, crowned with a vine and ivy, which are two plants associated with the serpent. Bacchus is a serpent god. The sign of the serpent was Ichthus, which strangely became a fish when taken by a new Messiah, Jesus. This is basically the same imagery as Oannes or Jonah, as we have already seen. Bacchus is also and strangely the guardian spirit of Islam. According to Midas, Bacchus possessed the philosopher's stone. That is, he could turn water into wine or give new life. And indeed, it was Bacchus who gave Midas the golden touch, a gift both wonderful and deadly, like the snake. And we should remember that gold was the symbol for immortality. So we may have here, in the story of King Midas, a subtle lesson. The golden touch of Midas was both wonderful and yet deadly. One had to use it sparingly, and it symbolically pointed towards immortality, bestowed upon Midas by a serpent deity. Again, amazing power of life creating and life resurrecting, bestowed by an ancient and mysterious serpent group of deities that came down from the heavens. But there is yet more in the Greek mystery plays and traditions which is of interest to us. There is an interesting staff, similar to the caduceus, called the thyros. This is entwined with the vine or ivy, which we know to be symbolic of immortality, and the serpent. It is surmounted with a pine cone, which signifies immortality. This staff is the life force, like the Indian Kundalini, and is chiefly associated with Bacchus and Dionysus, but it is also found in Egypt, Phoenicia, and among the Hebrews. Is this powerful staff symbol a folk memory of an amazing piece of alien technology? A rod of the gods? We have found that there are mythological and legendary links between all the messianic deities, and now this is a symbolic link. All the saviors from classical and Hebraic literature are there simply to bring us knowledge and eternal life, and their tool is the serpent. In fact, this amazing, life-giving device would become a symbol of power and life for generations, and is still with us to this day in the form of the cross. The asp, or sacred horned serpent of the ancients, was alternatively known as the cerastus. The word ceras is the equivalent of cross, and in Greek the word keras means horn. In Hebrew, cerastus might be rendered great beloved, like Jesus. Jesus, as we know, was seen upon the cross, or ceras, with the crown of thorns, or horns, and this image strongly associates itself with all the images of the horned serpent. Only through the serpent may we have eternal life. Only through their power may we too rise up to the heavens. Through the alien serpent, we may have access to the ancient gods. The Greek god Ophiuchus, which means he who holds the serpent, came to represent Asclepius, the ancient healer now seen in the stars, because that is where he returned. But what about the greatest of Greek gods, I asked myself. Surely he would show some signs that related him in some way to this ancient truth. I did not have to search far. Although Zeus, as the father of Greek pantheon, is never depicted with serpents, he is when in the form of the Olympian Zeus, Mylikios, who takes on the form of a serpent to attend the spring rites of the mother goddess Earth. Indeed, Zeus actually took the form of the serpent, Ophion, to avoid the ravages of his father Kronos, or Time. He thus avoided what we all fear, time catching up on us, death. But he needed to live longer than his humanoid state. Again, we have evidence of ancient gods shape-shifting, and here we discover why. The physiology of the ancient race enabled longer lives. Ours seemed trapped into a specific timetable, whether by accident or design. Zeus also utilized his own angels. The Greek daemons would later become Christian demons, and which were invisible beings assigned by Zeus as guardian spirits to guide and give wise counsel. They appeared as handsome youths or wise serpents. This greatest of Greek gods utilized the snake to avoid death and to bestow wisdom. Although we know in today's age that Zeus was not real, we do know that these myths and legends were created or adapted in order to make certain points as folk memories of a very real period of contact with alien species. Many times, they are to teach us how to live, how to relate to others. We cannot therefore ignore what these stories are telling us. We must see that hidden somewhere within them are truths in their own right. There is little wonder that the name serpent is related to wisdom, the wise serpent of the Bible, the same that Moses lifted up in the wilderness, the same wise serpent equated with Jesus himself. The snake became symbolic for wisdom and for the female aspect, and was no more powerful than in the image of Sophia. Obviously, as Ophis is serpent, so too is Sophia, and which now means wisdom. And we find in most of the world's folklore that the snake is equated to wisdom, even in the Bible. There is little wonder that this should be the case if mankind ever saw the serpent-like humanoid aliens as serpents, because they were indeed wise. It cannot be that the humble snake was seen as wise. The question is, why did the ancient alien gods come to Earth, genetically alter the human race, and teach them? Were they looking for worshippers? Would a superior race really desire such a thing? Or were they looking for slaves? Or are we seeing this a too human way? Are we able to reason their motives? Some have said the aliens needed slaves to mine for gold, but modern science has discovered that gold is everywhere in the universe and easily available from meteors and other objects in space. Why would they come light years to collect gold? I suggest a new theory, and one that relates to all that has been said. The one main thing that comes up again and again and again is immortality. Could it be that our ancient alien race were dying? Could it be that they needed new genetic stock to breed with or possess? Today, scientists believe that the ancient astronaut hypothesis is actually not wrong and may in fact be true, but they have as yet to discover evidence. Enoch was the consecrated one because he was of their blood. He would later write up the history of these fallen wanderers who spread across the globe as the great shining ones. Teaching, measuring, and building the world's most mysterious ancient monuments. Of course, we must not forget the seraphim of Numbers 21:6 and elsewhere. These are not mystical beings. They have hands, face, legs, but do they have powers from God? Because they are in the light, and they have the symbolic wings of the early shaman, the bird flight, the dreamtime trance ability to fly. Their name means shining ones or fiery serpents. They are enlightened beings via the power of the serpent. Mystical Jewish literature tells us that the angels can fly, tell the future, shapeshift, speak Hebrew, and are the emanations of the divine shining light. They are aliens. In the Old Testament, God is indistinguishable from the angel or messenger known as Yahweh. He looks the same and acts as his representative. There is no difference here from Babylonian, Egyptian, and Sumeria. These are all the same beings interpreted through different cultures. In the New Testament, the angels actually take part in the judgment at the end times. This is from the idea that they will one day return like the film, The Day the Earth Stood Still. We are told that the Nephilim or Watchers, are the angels who seem to have been the military arm of the Shining Ones, and who were initially employed to guard the Garden of Eden. Then began to mix with the indigenous peoples of the area. This Garden of Eden is where the genetic manipulating was taking place. High above the rest of mankind, Eden means plateau. And it came to pass, when the children of men had manipulated, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of the heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said to one another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men, and beget us children. And Simjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him, and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual imprecautions, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together, and bound themselves by mutual imprecautions upon it. Book of Enoch. From this union a hybrid race was produced, a race of giants, so we're told. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one, and they began to go in unto them, and to defile themselves with them. And they taught them charms and enchantments, and the cutting of roots, and made them acquainted with the plants. And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, whose height was 3,000 ells, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind. And they began to sin against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh and drink the blood. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. And then Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel looked down from the heavens, and saw much blood being shed upon the earth, and all lawlessness being wrought upon the earth. These insurgents also passed on knowledge, and taught them combat, and how to make weapons. And Azazel taught men to make swords, and knives, and shields, and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth, and the art of working them, and bracelets, and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray, and became corrupt in all their ways. Simjaza taught enchantments and root cuttings. Aramos the resolving of enchantments. Barakijal taught astrology. Kokobel the constellations. Ezekiel the knowledge of the clouds. Ariquiel the sign of the earth. Shamsiel the sign of the sun. And Sariel the course of the moon. And as men perished, they cried, and their cry went up to heaven. All this was seen as a violation against the set of laws laid down by the aliens who were possessive of their knowledge. Thou seest what Azazel hath done, who hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven, which men were striving to learn. And Simjaza, to whom thou hast given authority to bear rule over his associates. And they have gone to the daughters of men upon earth, and have slept with the women, and have defiled themselves, and revealed them to all kinds of sins. And the women have borne giants. Enoch, a scribe, who is the son of and taught by the alien Shining Ones, was then employed as a messenger or intermediary between the Shining Ones and these fallen ones, who had decided to abandon their divinity to live amongst the tribes of man. Enoch was then sent to tell the insurgents that a severe sentence had been passed on them, and that they were soon to be punished. A brief punishment sent is the flood. It is as if the Shining Ones wanted to wash away the sins of the earth that had been created by their own kind, the fallen ones. What we have to ask now is one very simple question. If it is true that these aliens will one day return to make judgment upon us, then are we ready? In what form will that judgment come? The fact is that we children of men and alien have indeed failed miserably. We have caused suffering in the name of religions these aliens originated. We caused suffering in the name of just about anything. We've raped and pillaged our Mother Earth so badly that we have eradicated species and altered the environment itself. Every day, mankind commits atrocities. Ask yourself now, if you were a wise serpent alien with vast knowledge and power, what judgment would you make upon the people of planet Earth?